the right to bear arms, but
shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket.
If they wanna shoot at us, got a right to shoot 'em up. They shoot us in the back, bet they say it's from the front. You warned, even if you aren't armed, they will find an excuse to do you harm if they think you out of line. In every city's urban jurisdiction, you will find some people making livings out of creeping from behind. And even if behaving most of the time, man, they know if an officer to blame, they need to let it go. With a family at home, a mortgage to support. In times when it's hella hard as fuck to find a job. If you wanna keep yours, you better not inform. Don't wanna be the wrong side of the law. But guess what? The people got a weapon of their own. The lens and a shutter built into a mobile phone. Evidence admissible in court, even more documented cases of what's been going on. Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket.
I hear them saying that this shit don't ever happen in Seattle. And if it does, it's really just a couple bad apples. But if you keep in count, you will see this shit is not the apple, it's the tree. It's rotten underneath. Oh, say, can you see? No way that it's true. They don't wanna see another South Central 92 or Seattle 99. Even if it happens, what they saying on the news. Bad people mad, justifying the abuse. And youth, especially the ones with darker features, being targeted to booze. And true, some people can handle the truth. Now keep that feeling in mind when you pull that camera out and ask a pig to smile at you. I ain't talking one, I'm talking 3 or 4 or 5. What you so afraid of if you ain't committing crime? We are merely doing what a citizen should do. Better act right. If I were you, the world is watching you. We gotta shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Still think it's relevant, even if them kids cop the shirts and stop wearing them. Humbled in the presence of the veterans and not the ones who picked up their guns, but who picked up their brethren and sisterin. History in the making, I was witnessing, listening. Seen this old Japanese lady with a sticker on her walker said, "Free Mumia," and this was before the Trustafarians were saying it. Taking it for granted that we talk about the 60s and never get to talk to anybody who done lived the shit and still exists. Or better yet, she still resists. Speaking to a myriad of young, dumb, and ignorant kids, I was one of them. Stuck around lingering. Said that it's a privilege to meet you in person, and she took my hand, said it's good to meet you too. And when I'm out of school, asked me what I'm gonna do. I had to think about it, but truth is I knew that it was something for the youth and shit. Truly, I'd probably be a teacher if the music didn't make enough to make me wanna gamble on its sustenance. And that's why I'm writing this to tell y'all, from a scholar, when I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. Holla, swear to my Kasamas, when I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. And if she ever hear this, it's an honor, cause when I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. Tama, serve the people proper, and when I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. When I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. When I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. I seen the picture up in Life magazine. You were sitting front seat for Malcolm's last speech. Saw the first man with the shotgun. 2 more came to get the job done. Now who would've thought that it'd be you holding him? I wonder what you felt when his eyes were going dim. And if he never died, would we know that he exists? Or would he been the leader that we always seem to miss? Now there's no taking back whatever happens in our midst. You remind me that it's more than just a martyr and a myth. You could've said it quits many times ever since, and you find there will always be a reason for the fist. The last one to hold him could've been somebody else. You'd still be remembered for the people that you helped. They said to keep trying, but never losing hope. Revolutionaries die, but the revolution don't, and it won't. And I put that on my mama, cause when I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. Holla, swear to my Kasamas. When I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. And if she ever hear this, it's an honor, cause when I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. Comma, serve the people proper. When I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. When I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. When I grow up, I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. November 30th, 1999. No sunshine. Yo, the body rock stopped. Probably got caught by the cops nearby. Somebody got shot. But parties don't stop and the parties don't care. It's a stick up. It's why we got our hands in the air. Still demanding a share. Refrigerators bare cause they wanna see trade get free and not fair. But we are not blind. We are not there. We don't got time left to spare to not care. On the last day of November, swelling in ranks, went to chant down the mighty IMF and World Bank. A gathering of people in peaceful assembly. Onward to Westlake to disrupt the entry. Walk along steady, riot squad ready to protect every last dignitary's ass. But this started when they herded us like cattle in a fence. Protesters getting restless without an exit. They threatened to arrest us. We pushed back and then a hail of rubber bullets hit teens and old men. I admit had to split when the first gas canisters hit. Felt it burn in my eyes, nose and lips. They try to blame it on the anarchist garbage. I was there, I'll tell you right now, the pigs started it. But they distorted in the news, talking about stomping down Nike Town, wearing they shoes. But the body rock stopped. Probably got caught by the cops nearby. Somebody got shot. But parties don't stop and the parties don't care. It's a stick up. It's why we got our hands in the air. 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when our feet pound streets. 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when our feet pound streets. 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when our feet pound streets. 50,000 deep, 50,000 deep. The body rock stopped. Probably got caught by the cops nearby. Somebody got shot. But parties don't stop in the South. So take your shoes off when you come into my house. I had to duck out cause I knew I stuck out in the crowd. After many years growing up brown in this town. Now this is what democracy looks like. Not what you all had in mind for tonight, Mr. Mayor. Shell shock for 5 days straight. Press conference looking constipated and pale. Tossed the homie in jail. Wasn't even protesting. Wrong place, wrong time. learned a quick lesson. But this is not a question what we did to deserve this. Rich kids went and got arrested on purpose. But was it worth it? My first inclination. Globalization is the root of the pain. Made the reason that they left and the reason that we came. Catch my breath, blood pulsates my brain. And they called it a riot. I call it an uprising. And they call this a riot. But nah, I call it an uprising. And they call this a riot? Nah, man, fuck that, I'ma call it an uprising. 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when I free pound streets. Yo, 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when I free pound streets. Come on, y'all. 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when I free pound streets. Yeah, 50,000 deep, and it sound like thunder when I free pound streets.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our virtual space. Welcome to CAATA's second episode of our Healing Over Hate series. And as we gather today, let us start by taking 3 deep collective breaths to ground us in this virtual space together. So here we are, breathing in, expanding your back and your ribs, and exhaling. This one is for your self-determination. And breathing in again deeply. And this breath is for this community gathered here today. And of course, as we hold space for those who are unable to be with us right now, exhaling deeply. And breathing in one more time, expanding your ribs, your back once again. This is to call in our ancestors. And it's for all the communities that CAATA serves and the communities that you serve as well. Thank you. Mahalo. And of course, aloha. Thank you for being with us. And as we gather today in this effort to host this important conversation, as we get back or continue to create art the best we can in these challenging times, these ongoing times of a pandemic, and we're in a new digital format using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many indigenous communities. This technology, which has now become central to our daily lives, leaves a significant footprint and contributes to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples. Although we are here together virtually, separated by distance in different geographical locations, collectively we all sit on Indigenous land. Land once occupied and inhabited by hundreds of native tribes. Land stolen from these indigenous peoples originally by European settlers. The genocide and forced removal of indigenous people from these lands is a history that must be acknowledged, and the current struggles of indigenous peoples must be brought to the forefront so that their plight is never forgotten. We also want to be most respectful and in right purpose. We want to learn of their tribal governances. We want to honor their ways of life. So, with that, from a wonderful elder Adrian Wong of Alumni Natives, Adrian says, "How do you go beyond a mere acknowledgement, knowing that this land that was stolen is the land that holds the blood, the tears of black and brown, this land that holds the stories of labors? How and what are you doing for the land? How are you humbling yourself to give thanks so that you can breathe the air made so that you can live?" Again, we thank Adrian Wong of Alumni Natives and other Native leaders um, who have ensured our safety for the land and earth upon which we are set. I am tuning in from Perseverance Theater that is here on the unceded lands of the Occoquan peoples on Tlingit, Ani, and we also conduct our business on the land of the Dena'ina peoples. These are communities that are based and certainly on the unceded lands of Alaska, in Alaska. So it's an honor and pleasure to be here serving as the board president of CAATA once again to bring us into these important conversations. So aloha, and again, mahalo Anui for being with us. It's now my honor and pleasure as we begin our program. We will have two wonderful guests, important guests, Dax Valdez of iHoloback and Adriana Lee of Impact. But before that, I want to bring on our wonderful board member and co-steering committee chair, Leilani Chan. Leilani is also the artistic director of CAATA Productions, and Kahai Sueco, our interim general manager here at CAATA, and also a company member of Inamona Theater Company in Hawaii. So please give a warm virtual welcome to Leilani and Kahai as they will offer also as our introduction a field update. Thank you for being with us. Mahalo.
Aloha, kaha'iolelo.
Aloha, aloha Leilani.
So just as a quick reminder, we transitioned to this virtual series last year when it became clear that we could not gather in person due to the pandemic. We wanted this series to begin conversations that might otherwise happen in person in Hawaii at Confest 2020. And this series has since become a place to check in with our community and colleagues to address the times. From George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis, to the murders of the 8 Asian American women in Atlanta last month, to the murder of I Remember Sai Cap, a 16-year-old Chuukese boy in Hawaii who was murdered by the Honolulu Police Department. And the murder of Dante Wright in Minneapolis. And unfortunately, since the last episode, there have been other murders and acts of violence, including the FedEx shooting in Indianapolis, more cases of anti-Asian violence in San Francisco, Baltimore, and New York, and another recent murder by the Honolulu Police Department. It has been a lot. It has been a year of keeping our families safe while mourning our friends and relatives who have passed from COVID-19. This monthly grounding and conversation with each other and with you has been a lifeline for myself, the CAATA board members, and I hope for you, the viewer, as well. A way to combat the isolation and to find community, even if only online. Even if to sit in the anger together and set our intention for healing, understanding across clans, tribes, ethnicities, and color lines.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Ryan Iwauka, Iolelo Sueoka, calling in today from Kamo'iliili, Waikiki, Oahu, just a few blocks makai of the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Kahai?
We are so excited to be able to have the conversations in the vein that Leilani was mentioning, to start talking about all of these issues and healing together. and sometimes just sitting in anger. Yes, that's also true. Um, so since we were not able to convene in 2020 as we had originally planned, we for the safety of the public here in Hawaii and the traveling guests, decided to postpone and then postpone again, and we'll finally be able to meet in May 2022. So we hope that all of you will stay tuned for updates on our 2022 gathering in Honolulu, and just to talk about many people know that we'll be that we are a population that's made up of a majority of Asian Americans, Kanaka Maoli, and relocated residents from the Pacific Islands, from Pacifica. And you would think that a lot of the issues seen in other places aren't as deep here. But as Leilani mentioned, with the HPD killing of I Remember Saikap and also the murder of Lindani Mayeni, a South African Zulu man, we have so many of the same issues. And the most it's sad to say, but it's hardly surprising to see police forces um, but the truly disappointing aspect of what we see here in Hawaii is the anti-Black and anti-Indigenous, anti-Pacific Islander sentiments that are being expressed through social media and even by people in powers of position and influence. Um, and oftentimes those people are Asian Americans, and we need to grapple with that. And before we can create healing for ourselves and the issues that we see as most important, we really need to understand our own anti-Indigenous, anti-Black, anti-person of color biases that are brought to us by the settler colonialism and the white supremacy that predominates. So that's why we're here. That's why we'll be gathering
in Hawaii in 2022.
And with that in mind, I would love to go back to Leslie to introduce our wonderful guest for today.
Mahalo, Leilani, and Kaha'i. And Kaha'i, I know you had a little bit of connectivity issue, but glad you're with us. And I know we'll see Leilani and Kaha'i back again in the program. Thank you for that update. Yes, and it's important to acknowledge the state of the field as we move forward, especially with today's episode. So, given the continued mass shootings and race based violence and harassment, we at CAATA listened in community and we determined that these guests and their presentations couldn't be more timely. Like when it was so important to feature family therapist, clinical counselor Ginger Quee, given these trauma inducing times. We also thought it important to offer these resources to empower and train ourselves during these horrific and challenging times. So let us begin. Our first guest, mahalo for being with us, is Dax Valdez. Dax is an actor, choreographer, director, and teaching artist based in New York City. Currently, Dax is an actor with Only Make Believe, a nonprofit organization that creates and performs interactive theater for children in hospitals and care facilities. And Dax is on the faculty with the Art of Science Learning. He is excited to merge his experience with these fields into the work at iHolaback. Dax has served as the Associate Artistic Director for Leviathan Theater, Education Associate for the Vineyard Theater, Associate Producer for the annual Career Transition for Dancers Galas, and as producer for Capizio Dance Company's 125th and 130th anniversary galas. Dax is an associate member of the Society of Directors and Choreographers, and his education spans a BFA in musical theater from Point Park University. And Dax has also worked with and been educated at the Pacific Conservatory of the Performing Arts. Please give a warm virtual welcome to Dax Valdez of iHollaback.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. So thank you for being here today. I am going to take you through a mini training of what we offer at Hollaback. It is our bystander intervention to stop anti-Asian American, and xenophobic harassment. And we have this wonderful partnership with Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC, based in Washington, D.C. So I'd like to share a stat from earlier this March. In a recent Ipsos poll from March 2021, the percentage of people blaming Asian Americans for COVID is still greater than 25%. And 54%, almost 1 in 4 people, think China is responsible for COVID. So beliefs like this can turn into action, including how we see and how we treat those who may represent this underlying belief, whether we are aware of it or not. And so with bystander intervention, we want to be able to challenge these things when they come up. So thank you for being here. My name is Dax Valdez. My pronouns are he, him. I'm one of the senior trainers at Hollaback, and I am joining you in this virtual space from the traditional land of the Ohlone, from Daly City, California. And I care about this work because I'm a child of immigrants. I grew up in San Francisco. I live in New York City, where there is such a rich diversity of people there. But over the last year, when I was sitting in my apartment, reading and receiving all of these stories of hate, and then especially since February, directed towards our community, I felt even more helpless. And reflecting on my own experiences of harassment, while my physical being was not in any danger, I didn't have language or the skills to challenge what was being shared out. Thinking, oh yeah, it's just my friends handing me a Chinese takeout menu and asking me to order for everyone using the characters. But now I know what that is. And the tools and strategies that we share during our training will hopefully help you mitigate the harm around yourself and others when you see disrespect and harassment happening. So I've seen some of those effects. I have experienced it. And I know what it's like to see something happening and not know what to do. I have helped others and I have been helped. And I know that there is power, whether it's in a single action or a single word, whether it's from a community or from a single person. Now, stories like mine are not unique, and they happen all the time. And they're happening right now. And these incidents, however small they seem, they build up over time. They're also part of a larger spectrum of disrespect and contribute to an environment that allows for more extreme incidents to occur. So the training that we offer provides you all with ideas and tips to and ways to intervene as a bystander if you choose to intervene in a situation, whether in person or online. And a little bit about our organization. Hollaback is a global people-powered movement, and our mission is to end harassment in all its forms. We've collected and mapped over 16,000 stories of harassment from all over the world. And as we read those stories, we started to notice that the only good thing that ever happened to people who experienced harassment was when somebody intervened on their behalf. And so we started training people to do just that. And in our partnership with Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC, in the last year alone, from March 2020 to last week, we have trained over 75,000 people in bystander intervention. Now, the latest iteration of discrimination is coronavirus-related racism against Chinese Americans and Asian Americans who are being blamed for the virus or presumed to be carriers of the virus. And this sort of stereotyping and scapegoating is wrong, and it's also dangerous. And that is why we partnered with AAJC to adapt our bystander intervention training and bring it to you. So thinking about all of these things, think about your own experiences of harassment that you've witnessed, you've seen in the news, or maybe that have happened to you. Some of these could be staring, or maybe the jokes or the assumptions that Asians and Asian Americans have coronavirus or have been exposed to it. Or maybe it's shaming or humiliation, which comes in the form of jokes. Or maybe somebody is using inappropriate terms for COVID-19, like Chinese virus or Kung flu. Maybe it's graffiti or memes that have anti-Asian sentiment shared, or spitting or other offensive physical gestures. And again, many of us may have experienced this, and know that you are not alone of seeing these things happen in the world. So when we think about these in a spectrum of disrespect, as the COVID-19 pandemic has raged on, we have seen more harassment, discrimination, and even violence directed at our communities. And it is important to note that none of this is new. Anti-Asian racism and xenophobia has been a part of the US from the beginning, and we've seen it manifested in different communities in many ways over the years. So the things that we've been seeing in the news, these reports of violence, assault, murder, we don't want to use the tools in our toolbox for when things are at their worst, but we want to be able to use tools like bystander intervention when your spidey sense tingles, when somebody says an inappropriate joke or makes an inappropriate comment, or maybe somebody crosses the street as you pass by them. That's when it is an opportunity to think, do I want to engage in this, and maybe share why and what this person is doing is harmful or hurtful, and knowing that it is a judgment call whenever you decide to intervene. So thinking about those extreme examples that we've seen in the news, thinking about your own, the little insignificant things like microaggressions, or somebody says something wrong, or calls COVID by a different name. And I'm going to pause here for a moment and say that words matter, and wrongly stated names for COVID-19 like Kung flu or Chinese virus only serve to heighten the targeting of the Asian American community. So calling it the Wuhan virus may be about referring to the geography where it was experienced first, but it allows for targeted discrimination of people and only further diminishes the fact that this is a global health situation. COVID-19 is a public health crisis, and it is not specific to one community. And thinking about the things that may seem less insignificant, things like microaggressions, this idea of the perpetual foreigner, assuming that Asian or Asian Americans are not born here. And many of us have heard this in the form of the question, where are you from? I mean, no, where are you really from? So no matter what you call them, and no matter where they fall on that spectrum of disrespect, they are not okay. And when we have a culture that allows for any form of disrespect, it creates an environment that allows for more severe forms of harassment to proliferate. So at Hollaback, we have what we call the 5 Ds of bystander intervention. These are ways that you can take care of yourself and feel safe and comfortable if you do decide to intervene on somebody's behalf. So the first one is distract, and this is creating a distraction to de-escalate the situation. So maybe you drop something, everybody turns to figure out where the sound came from, or maybe you can walk by the people in conflict and oops, pretend to spill something. Or you can consider starting a conversation, ask for directions, compliment them on their bag, or establish a relationship. Walk up to them, pretend you know them. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I'm late. Are you ready to go? Now, what's important to think about with that tactic is that you don't want to talk about or refer to the harassment. Talk about something completely unrelated, and that way you're focusing positive energy on that individual and not giving the person who's creating the disrespect any attention. The second one is delegate, and this is finding somebody else, whether it's a person who's in charge of the place you're in or the person next to you on public transportation, and ask them for help. So thinking about, hey, you see what's going on over there? If you can go tell the manager what's happening, that somebody's being harassed, I'm going to see if I can move in and create some space. Now, delegating can be really powerful in helping you feel supported as a bystander, as well as taking care of the person who's experiencing that disrespect. Document is taking a photo or a video of the incident with your cell phone, and then giving that footage that you created to the person who is experiencing the harassment so that they can decide what to do with it. Delay is simply waiting until the incident is over and then checking in with the person afterwards. So an example of this would be if you were on the street, somebody rolled by in a vehicle, yelled a racial slur out at the person in front of you, they're gone. We can go up to the person, ask if they're okay, what do they need to feel taken care of in this moment. And delay is something that everyone can do. Direct is directly speaking up about the harassment when it's happening, and that's the one that most people think about when they think about bystander intervention. Then we share strategies and ways to keep you safe if you do decide to intervene. And if you do decide to intervene, think about assessing your safety, looking around, who's there, what was said, is there an easy exit that you may need to use? All of these are happening in a split second decisions, and I recognize that, but our bodies and our minds are resilient and so wonderful. So if you don't feel comfortable intervening, see if there's one of the other Ds that you can use, one of the other indirect methods. And if nothing feels right to you, then know that it is okay to not intervene at all. Second, just think about what else might be giving you pause. Maybe you share some aspects of your identity with the same person who's being harassed. Honor that as true, and see if you can choose one of the other indirect methods, maybe distract, or if you feel comfortable enough to take a photo or a video of what's going on. And at the very least, we can all do delay and just check in on that person. And then if you do decide to intervene, you have a whole menu of options to choose from. You can take one of these tactics and use them by themselves, or you can use a combination of them. There are no right ways to intervene. You get to decide what's right for you. So in our partnership with Asian Americans Advancing Justice, we have trained more than 75,000 allies ready to take action, to be bystanders in action when they see anti-Asian racism and xenophobic harassment happening. So we should not have to live in fear of being targeted with harassment and attacks. And the same safety that we want for Asian American communities, we also have to have for Black communities. Racism and white supremacy seek to pit communities of color against each other, and they seek to divide our communities. We all have an important role to play in dismantling racism, dismantling white supremacy, and dismantling anti-Blackness within our communities. This means always being vocal about police-sponsored violence against Black communities, and this means always raising our voices that Black lives matter. And together, we can help break this cycle of violence against Black communities, against communities of color, against Asian American communities, and against all marginalized communities. We can help change the environment that allow and culture that allow for hate and discrimination. Thank you.
Mahalo. Oh, Dax, thank you. That's powerful information. The 5 Ds. Okay. I was taking notes. Um, again, this is such an important time. We need this information. We need these opportunities while we have cool heads to strategize what we might do in any of those situations, right? I
Mhm.
would like to invite my colleagues, Leilani and Kahai, back on for a kind of a Q&A with you before we continue with our second guest. And then we also invite our viewers to please use your chat function, whether you're at the HowlRound TV platform or you're on the CAATA Facebook page. please use your chat function if you'd like to ask a question or offer a comment. We welcome it. So as folks might be doing that, I'd like to open it up. Leilani, Kahai, we were hearing what Dax was sharing. Any thoughts? The 5Ds and the times we're living in, for sure.
I think my first question is Dax, as a performer and artist, how has that helped you work with this bystander training and teach about it?
Oh man, that is like, I think also, you know, being this training, we are as actors and as theater makers, storytellers, we are trained to be vulnerable and open ourselves up to that. And so this is a natural fit for that. I think we're telling a story, we're sharing this information. A lot of people are receiving it for the first time. I also will highlight that sometimes, especially in March, when receiving news of Atlanta, it was hard to process in real time. And then being in front of 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people who were signing up for these trainings, wanting answers. And there are like two of us on the other side of the screen. And yeah, they're looking to you to hold that space. And I also thought, was like, are we doing enough? And it's been a journey, and so it's still negotiating. It's like a day-to-day thing, trying to just navigate what's going on in the real world, updating the presentation to reflect current headlines. Yeah, sometimes you just want to go, but it is a privilege to be a steward of this work and to share, and also to be Asian presenting and have folks come to the training and see my face and my co-facilitators' faces and know that there are people out there who look like them that they can identify with and receive this information.
Absolutely. I don't want to underestimate how powerful that is. I know, Dax, we've been talking with you about coming into our AAPI theater makers community to offer this training. And for us to experience someone who is a theater artist as well, who is in our community, really powerful. Yeah. Kahai, did you have a thought or a question? I thought you might have that moment of meaning.
Yeah, just a bit. You know, it's I love that you mentioned that as an Asian presenting person doing this work. I think that's so important, and that really highlights the idea that it's so important that we all do this within our own communities, because when it comes from our communities with faces that represent our communities, I think it hits to a different place. And I know that
He's been having a little connectivity.
Yeah, it's always right when we're like,
right?
What's the
word?
You know, I'm not sure what powers or agencies might be controlling my internet today. But yeah, I was just about to mention, you know, there is this sort of unfortunate oppression porn aspect to it. I was searching for a better word, where people take on the issue without really working within the community. And just your comment about documentation and going to the person that was impacted to see what they want to do about it. I love that. It just like speaks to such a cultural understanding of working within your community. So mahalo for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's respect, as you mentioned, the person being disrespected, but how can then we in turn respect through the process? Dax, I have a thought. When Leilani, you spurred my imagination, Leilani. When Leilani mentioned, how does this impact you as an artist? One of the things that occurred to me as I was starting to meet you and meet our next guest, Adriana, most of us have through immigration, and even being here many generations, but being through many um, uh, moments in history of definite heavy oppression, right? And even kind of remnants of the genocidal and white supremacy culture that's been enacted on any of us, right? The settler colonialism keeps replicating those patterns, and it's shown with people of color now, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So I think about, actually, none of us have probably grown up without that larger dynamic, and having to we're socialized in it, but having to empower ourselves constantly. I feel like this is a real turning point if we can all get this training from Hollaback as well as from Impact. I'm curious how that's going to change our work as artists to feel empowered as we support each other when things are happening. And how do we take our power and use those various strategies when we might be the one targeted? To bring ourselves forward with these kinds of skills and for each other in the global majority communities. I'm just very um, I'm sad it had to come around this way, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm glad that you both have organizations that are offering us real empowerment solutions. Because you heal when you come out of victimization, you heal when you gain your empowerment. Can you speak a little bit of that? Because that's again spurred my imagination when Leilani mentioned, how is this for you as an artist?
So I think it is thinking about this work as kind of like therapeutic. So like as we are going through and like living our characters' lives on stage, there is a process of like what we take on and what we are able to leave behind. This is a little too close to home, but also knowing that we have to have a self-care process to tell this part of the story and then take care of ourselves as well. But as at least for my actor brain coming into this work is, and as an educator, is giving people permission to experience this, having that aha moment, saying, yes, I can do this. It doesn't, when you break it down, that doesn't seem like it's unattainable. I can do this. I can check on somebody. I can say, hey, what was so funny about that joke? And these small steps can then lead to bigger steps and bigger actions. And it's not just our Asian and Asian American celebrities that we can look to and see that they're doing this work too, but the people who are not that famous or don't have that big of a platform. When we are doing these actions, bystander intervention, it is empowering other people, giving themselves permission, seeing somebody step up and show up, and then saying, I can do that too. So it is this modeling that we can take into our own communities, into our own families, asking these reflection questions. Why do you think this is? That help us further unpack that and also give momentum forward to enact change and speak up about and help transform the culture of hate and discrimination.
Truly. Yes, how we show up for each other. We talk about that in spaces all the time, but this takes that to a new level, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is, and I will say like the takeaway for a lot of people that they share back is, yes, it's the small actions that can lead to bigger change. So it doesn't have to be this big superhero moment. It's the small question, are you okay? That can have lasting impact, because maybe the other times that that person or that individual had experienced harassment, nobody checked in on them. And maybe the next time it happens, nobody will check in on them again, but they will remember that moment and that interaction that you had with them and take that forward.
Mm-hmm. That was it number 3 about documentation. I feel like that's a critical one. You mentioned doing maybe combining some actions, because we have
Yes.
such a reputation for underreporting. So how that kind of encourages maybe also someone to have support to report what's happened.
Yeah, so when you have like a photo or a video or even screenshots of texts or images or emails that you've gotten that are considered harassment, it shows what harassment looks like for that individual and can help add power to showing, it can help add power to their ending harassment for themselves. And we also caution in the training about when you should call the police or not, because the police don't always create an environment where people feel safer. Maybe it is the person in conflict, their status, any of the identity markers that might put them further at risk with law enforcement, especially in light of the history of harassment that the police themselves have. So we're always recommending that you check in with the person who's experiencing the harassment and see what they want you to do, because how are we taking care of them in that moment? Yeah, it's and also it's always it's judgment call, because, you know, again, people are coming to the trainings to in response to these escalated violence in the news across the country and across the world. So yes, looking for answers and actionable steps that they can take, which I think also dovetails really nicely into what Adriana will be sharing.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, Leilani Okaha'i, I know the connectivity. Any other question, Leilani, before we invite Adriana to join us? Any
No, I
question or
mean,
comment?
thank you for your work, Dax, and I know we'll all be coming back on later again to continue with more questions in relation to Adriana's presentation now.
Thank you for having me and letting me share what I've been doing.
Thank you so much for your work.
Mahalo. Thank you, Dax. Yes, it's powerful and important. So beautiful. We'll transition now. And again, Dax, Leilani, and Kaha'i will be back soon. So it's my honor to share with you about Impact. Impact works to prevent violence and abuse by giving people the tools to protect their safety and to advocate for safe and healthy relationships in their communities. Impact accomplishes this through training programs that teach a range of safety skills, including bystander intervention, assertive communication, de escalation, and physical self protection. Their training programs use realistic scenarios of threat, intimidation, hate speech, and potential assault to give participants the skills to respond effectively in the moment. Impact helps survivors of trauma and abuse by helping them regain a sense of safety and power. Impact helps organizations and communities develop policies and structures that proactively prevent abuse. So, with that, joining us from Impact is Adriana Lee, who is a program coordinator and instructor of Impact and Impact Ability programs. Adriana has been with Impact since 2017. She has worked at Triangle Inc. since January 2017, serving adults with disabilities to focus on advocacy and independence in the workplace. She comes from a background of arts and education, holding a bachelor's degree in theater from Pine Manor College. She's been a youth educator mentor in various museums and K through 8th grade school programs since 2008. Adriana looks forward to helping others develop the strength of their voice and power at Impact. So please join me in offering a warm virtual welcome to Adriana Lee. Adriana, thank you so much for joining us. Mahalo and aloha.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Leslie and everyone for inviting me. I'm very excited to present tonight. So hello, everyone. My name is Adriana Lee. My pronouns are she and they, and I've been with Impact Boston since 2017. And while that's still semi-new, I'm definitely not a stranger to safety and self-defense. So I'll talk a little bit about myself, and then I'll sort of give an overview of what we're going to present tonight. So I'm a native Bostonian. I am very, very honored and excited to be here, not just on behalf of Impact, but on behalf of my culture, my heritage, and being an Asian American. So I have very deep rooted ties to the Boston Chinatown community. My father is Puerto Rican from New York, and my mother actually emigrated from China. And the majority of my family that I'm connected to is from Southern China. So as I'm presenting this work, I bring that into this space, as well as being a self-defense instructor. I am someone who identifies as a survivor of assault and abuse, but also, like a lot of us, have experienced different systems of oppression, racism, and race-based harassment. Unfortunately, I'm also not a stranger to that, and that's why I'm very deeply connected to this work. So I'm here to present and talk a lot about what we are currently working on in terms of addressing anti-Asian hate and violence, as well as offer some strategies, tips, and different tools that we can use for ourselves to give us a sense of empowerment in this time. For those that maybe have faced harassment, that are currently in fear of their lives and having to deal with it, and all the complexities that are in between that. So I am going to ask Tech to bring up the slides, and I'm going to sort of walk us through what we're going to present tonight. And before I do that, I'd like to sort of just give an introduction of who we are as we're coming into this space as Impact. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in short, Impact is a nonprofit organization. We are chaptered throughout the United States, as well as one chapter that is international. We are based in Boston in the New England area. We teach all different types of self-defense. We started sometime around the 70s as more basic by trained martial artists and other folks in the field to teach women self-defense and physical skills for protecting themselves against worst case scenario. Over time, we've really broadened our approach to self-defense and the things that we teach. We've also expanded to different types of self-defense in different communities. Eventually, we became a nonprofit, and our focus is now, especially during COVID, we're able to reach out even more. We focus on de-escalation, assertiveness and boundary setting, safety strategy planning, and safety tools for marginalized communities, as well as our self-defense and advocacy principles and strategic tools for people with disabilities. So I'll sort of highlight a little bit of what I'm going to talk about tonight. But first, I kind of want to bring into this space talking about our current projects and collaborations. Next slide, please. So over the years, Impact Boston has really worked to serve all communities, different types of self-defense, safety, and just community support in times of need, in times of violence, and things like that. Where our current collaborations that are now expanding, Jane Doe Inc., Line Drawn, we focus a lot on also preventing sexual assault, as well as working with communities that support survivors of domestic violence. Currently, we are really focusing a lot on reaching out to communities that perhaps we're not partnered with before, specifically around Asian American communities. So we've been working a lot with the Greater Boston Chinese Golden Age Center and the Organization of Chinese Americans in New Jersey to broaden our reach and give all Asian Americans tools to support themselves and feel safe in their current environments and lend that support. Next slide, please. So I'll sort of outline here a little bit of what we're going to get into. This will sort of serve as a preview and offer some tools for those that are in need in this time. So I'll talk about sort of the guided principles that we focus on in almost all of our classes, whether it be classes that focus on verbal skills only as a line of self-defense, as well as physical skills, and all of the things we can do just with empowering ourselves, giving ourselves choice and permission to make choices that keep us the safest, as well as focus all of the choices we make in a way that uplifts and supports us, as opposed to puts the responsibility on us for having to be in the face of fear or violence. So simply put, to start, one of our biggest guidelines that we sort of focus on in our classes is the idea that a fight avoided is a fight won. Simply put, if I can think of my safety first and all that that means to protect myself, it means I'm actually reducing risk of harm for myself by avoiding a worst case scenario. If I can bypass a situation where I'm being harassed or having something potentially present violent to me, I'm already winning. I'm already keeping myself safe. And a lot of that comes with assessing risk for ourselves. When we're out in the community, when we're dealing one-on-one with people, taking time to notice the moments when we're feeling uncomfortable and being proactive and choosing when we can have a say in what we want to do is what we really focus on for finding our own empowerment. A lot of the times our students will come into our space either feeling that they want a sense of power or agency for themselves that they never had, or maybe they lost a sense of power and they're looking to regain it. So a lot of what we focus on and that I'll present tonight talks about managing our own adrenaline in the face of fear or violence. And as I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with, a lot of this has to do with responding and being able to react regardless of having fight, flight, freeze responses, and still being able to do things to defend ourselves in the moment. Specifically, a lot of what we focus on in classes around facing race-based harassment focus a lot on the things we can do ahead of time, being ahead of the curve with being strategic about our positioning, where we are in relationship to the other person, a potential aggressor, or maybe the safety of our environments. The body language that not only we exude for confidence and safety, but maybe the body language that someone else is presenting to us that may give us threat cues or pay attention to when something may escalate to violence, being able to balance understanding that. As well as one of the most important aspects of self-defense, awareness. And that's awareness of ourselves, of our surroundings, of our abilities, noticing and recognizing what's going on in others around us. And it gives us more time to think, more time to react, and be able to keep ourselves safe. And then the next thing we'll sort of cover that we talk about in all of our classes, we really believe our verbal skills come first. Again, if we can use our words to stop, de-escalate, or disrupt a potential attack or an uncomfortable or dangerous situation, we're already doing more, again, to avoid that physical risk of harm to ourselves or to others. Setting boundaries and setting limits and saying no and being confident and saying what we do want or need can actually be a measuring tool for how trustworthy and safe other people are around us based on how they react. If I set a limit or a boundary with someone and they either disregard my no, or they sidestep it, or they minimize it, I'm actually getting information, as negative as that interaction may be, about how I want to be around this person and how safe I feel around them. Next slide, please. So what I'd like to do now to offer to everyone is to practice what it means to manage our adrenaline. In this time, hopefully all of us have found at least one aspect of self-care in this time and things we can do to help us stay grounded and stay calm, whether we are nervous, uncomfortable, we're faced with a scary situation. And so what I'm going to do is actually invite you all to practice some of these grounding tools with me, and I'll sort of walk us through them. And then afterwards, I'll sort of talk about when they can be useful and practical. Specifically, the ones that I'm going to choose to do from our longer classes tonight is finding our breathing and points of contact. So for finding our breathing, the first thing I'm going to invite everyone to do is to just get comfortable in your chair now, in your space. You can close your eyes or look down at the floor and just take a moment to notice where your breathing is. See if you can See where it's located, notice where it's moving, and feel your breathing. Some people notice their breathing in their stomach. Some people notice it in their chest, up by their nose or throat. Just notice where it is and see if you can locate it. Once you think you found where your breathing is moving the most in your body, you can take one hand and place it on your breathing. And again, just noticing your breathing in this point in time, not changing, not regulating, just noticing and sitting with what it's doing now. You can also notice its characteristics as you're sitting and finding your breathing. Notice, is it deep or shallow, fast or slow? Again, not judging, not changing, just noticing. If it feels right for you, you can take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now take a moment to notice if your breathing changed at all after having taken a deep breath. Awesome. And I will welcome us all back. Thank you for partaking for those that are watching from home and got to try this. So this can be a very quick reset tool for managing our adrenaline in a moment where our fight response may take over and we want to sort of fight back, yell, use our voice, or kind of let anger run the show. In a moment where maybe freeze or flight takes over and we maybe disassociate as a self-defense mechanism, or we choose, or we end up like kind of checking out and not wanting to face what's in front of us, it can feel very disempowering to have these adrenaline responses sort of be present. They can happen in a matter of microseconds. They are automatic, and they can change and vary based on our chemistry, how much we ate or slept that day, and certainly in a moment of self-defense or facing harassment or potential violence, it can be not helpful to us. Sometimes it can be very difficult and taxing on our bodies to, in a moment of stress, take a deep breath. Finding our breathing can be very helpful before a difficult situation, afterwards to kind of cycle back down and be one with our breath. But most importantly, in the middle of a disagreement, in the middle of a conflict, we can actually find our breathing and the other person won't even notice. I can be having a very difficult conversation with a stranger and take a moment to just take inventory, notice where my breathing is, check in with it, even if it's uncomfortable, and I'm already doing a lot to de-escalate what may be my own adrenaline response that may spiral out of control. So it can be very useful in a moment where we notice that breathing can be difficult, that we notice it's staggered, or we can get, judgmental about ourselves, to, again, just take in that moment for ourselves, to be one with our breath and just notice what it's doing. So now I'll walk us through one more grounding tool. This one is very similar to finding our breathing. It's called points of contact. And essentially it's taking inventory of our body in our own space, our own environment in this time. So you're welcome to close your eyes, or you can look down at the floor again just to focus on your own body. Take that moment of stillness, and working from the ground up, we'll ground together. We're going to start with our feet. Notice where your feet are and what your feet are touching. Are they touching the floor, your chair? You can kind of wiggle your toes, grip the surface below you with your feet, and just notice that feeling, that point of contact. Going up, notice where your legs are, what your legs are touching. And just noticing. Moving up the backs of your legs, against your chair, against the surface they're touching. Your bottom, the base of your spine. If you're sitting in a chair, you're welcome to kind of press your back into your chair and just notice the chair against your back and your back against the chair. Take a moment to notice where your hands are. What are your hands touching? You can give your hands a little squeeze or just feel your fingertips against the surface of what they're touching. Taking a deep breath in and out on your own. While keeping your eyes closed or looking down at the floor, you can notice for yourself, what point of contact do you feel the most? What point of contact sticks out to you the most? Is it your hands, your feet, your legs? Which point of contact do you feel connected to the most in your own body right now? So from here, I invite us all to take another deep breath in and out, letting it all out. And we can open our eyes and come back to center. So in a similar context of dealing with our adrenaline and feeling nervous in a moment, whether it's facing harassment, whether it's the fear of facing harassment, sometimes our adrenaline responses can take over. And this can be a very helpful one to stay connected to our bodies and stay in our bodies. And we know that we're being effective if we can simply practice and call out a point of contact. So if I'm in a moment where I'm really nervous and my heart's beating and I'm getting adrenalized, if I can simply notice, I feel my toes wiggling in my shoes, right? I feel my hands touching themselves. I'm already being successful at sort of de-escalating my own adrenaline and helping my stress level baseline stay at a rate that I can still use my voice, right? To advocate for myself. I can still use my body and my mind to stay focused on what I need to do. So it can be very helpful, I think, as you know, as it's so properly titled, this sense of healing over hate. I think a lot of us, not just Asian Americans, but those that are specifically facing racism, specifically facing increased amounts of race-based harassment and the attention that it's getting, I think sometimes it can be very helpful to just manage our adrenaline in the day-to-day. Having healthy outlets that work for us, that are successful for us in terms of self-care, whether that be having a good cry, whether it means taking a social media and screen break completely and giving our minds and our bodies a rest from everything that's happening, whether it's hitting a punching bag or punching a pillow or screaming in a safe place, having daily outlets to be able to release what may be ongoing adrenaline for many of us and what we're facing in this time can be a really useful strategy to preventing a situation where we may not be able to take care of ourselves, defend ourselves, or speak up for ourselves with what we want or what we need, whether that be in our personal lives, whether that be in our communities, whether that be in the face of actual violence or a dangerous situation. Next slide, please. So many of our classes focus on strategizing both our physical self-defense as well as verbal self-defense and what that really means for holding our bodies, our voices, and ourselves, our intentions towards safety. Specifically now, a lot of the work that we've been working on with communities of color, with those that are marginalized, that are facing race-based harassment, a lot of the times we think of worst case scenario. We think of the fight, right? We think of when we're already in the middle of a very dangerous situation. But if we think about going back to the sense of empowerment and choice that we can give ourselves, there's many options that we do have before a worst case situation, and things we can do with our physicality, with our mind to prevent these things from happening to us. And the first one is probably the most important one to start from the very root of the situation, and that's having our awareness. That's being able to pay attention to our surroundings, know what's going on, and live in a way that has awareness that's not limiting, right? There's a difference between being hyper vigilant and living in fear all the time. And as we're noticing that we're in a space that we maybe feel uncomfortable, maybe we look up from time to time. The reality and the unfortunate reality of most targeting perpetrators and those perpetrating violence is oftentimes they will look for someone who might not seem aware, who might not seem like they know what's going on. And that's not to cast blame or judge who may be a potential victim, but it is a tool that in knowing that, we can stop that and disrupt something by just looking around, by being aware. It may be enough to ward off someone from thinking that we could be an easy target or thinking that they would want us to be a victim. By simply looking around, paying attention to our surroundings, we're also giving ourselves more reaction time if we are faced with something that's potentially dangerous or could make us uncomfortable. And it gives us more time to do what we need to do to avoid it. Again, trying to find other alternate routes to safety. There's also a lot we can do with the strength and the confidence in our voice, as well as our body language and how we hold our bodies and how we are strategic in our positioning to other people. This might seem a little bit more obvious now, thank you to the pandemic and COVID for making it so that now we're all at 6 feet distance. But the reality is actually we're a lot safer having distance from other people and noticing who we want to be close to and who we want to keep a distance to. Those are the things that we can decide for ourselves that will better put us in positions, again, to be able to react or respond proactively if we need to defend ourselves. So something I'm actually going to have us practice now to sort of show what that looks like embodying in our own bodies and using our voice is what we call strong stance. So I'm actually going to shift my camera up a little bit, and I'm going to invite us all to stand up. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means to sort of hold our body in a strong stance. So if we're thinking about the ways that we hold our bodies, as adults, there's different little quirks, nuances that we may have, but there are also things we can do with our body that present what we want. They can present strength and confidence and potentially ward off an attacker or harasser. And that's really about having a confident posture, about having our head up and looking around. So we're going to actually practice something with that now. So I want you to look down at your feet. And for your feet, you just want your legs and everything to be balanced. So maybe your feet are about shoulder width apart. Your shoulders are a little bit dropped. Your head is up high. Awesome. So from here, you can drop your shoulders and take a deep breath in and out. And standing nice and tall with your head up high, just notice for a moment how that feels in your body. If you want, you can put one foot a little bit back so that if you needed to, you could move back quickly. And again, just finding balance there and noticing. So with our hands, what we can do is a few things for communication here. So you can take your hands kind of like this, palm over palm. So this is how I would stand if I was feeling maybe confident, aware, but it's presenting as neutrally. It's not saying much. But from here, my hands are on what we call a ready stance. So if I have to pull them apart and have them like this to communicate something else, I can pull them apart easily. So from here, I'm clearly communicating stop. I'm clearly communicating I'm paying attention. Maybe with my body language, without my words, I'm saying don't come any closer, leave me alone, right? Having my hands out in front of me like this, fingers pointed up, thumbs close together. I'm also kind of protecting my center, and I'm sending a very clear, confident message, but not disrespectful or escalating a fight that I want to be left alone. Sometimes our hands might be here if we have like maybe some training in fighting, and it may show the other person that we're ready to fight, and we might not want to telegraph that. So by having our hands here, it's very clearly communicating stop. Now in the days, we don't want to always rely on bystanders, but if other people are watching and we're clearly having our head up, we're communicating stop, using our voice to have someone leave us alone, it's very clear we're in a self-defense position. So now what we're going to actually practice with that strength and confidence in our voice is actually something that can be very difficult for people, and that is the art of saying no. A lot of the times, attackers, perpetrators are looking for not just folks who they think aren't aware, they're looking, unfortunately, for people they think aren't going to defend themselves, aren't going to say anything or fight back. And I think a lot of what we may embody in our own communities as Asians is fighting both the stereotype and the socialized norm of being polite, right, to strangers, of being calm, of not making a scene. At Impact, a lot of what we teach invites students to make a scene when it is necessary, that you can use your voice to speak up, that you can say no, and that no should ultimately be heard and respected. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have our hands like this in our stop sign position. And again, just checking in here, your legs are balanced, but maybe your knees are a little bit bent. So you could stand like this for a really long time. So we're going to practice saying some phrases, and after each one, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and just notice how it feels in your body. So take a deep breath here and let it out. Notice that your hands are up. Notice that your feet are on the ground. Awesome. So now we're just going to say a few phrases, and after each one, just notice how it feels to say them. So repeating after me, we'll begin now. No. No, thank you. Don't come any closer to me. Please leave me alone. Stop. No. Awesome. And then we can shake it out and have a seat. Thank you all for those that are joining. So take a moment on your own to recognize and notice by practicing this how it feels to say no, how it feels to decline or set a boundary, how it feels to use clear, assertive language to say exactly what you want. This is really what we focus on a lot in our classes, is the ability to say no and taking time to notice the moments for yourself, taking inventory. When and where do I have a hard time saying no? When and where do I have a hard time using my voice or speaking up? And ultimately knowing that in a situation, whether it's uncomfortable or extremely dangerous, you always have the right to set a boundary. You always have the right to use your voice, to use your body language to clearly communicate strength, to clearly communicate defending yourself, and what it really means to feel safe when feeling harassed or when feeling uncomfortable. Next slide, please. So this kind of goes into this idea of strategizing our verbal self-defense. So again, thinking a lot, not just for Asian Americans, but I think it speaks for a lot of marginalized communities. A lot of intergenerationally, as are taught to be polite, as kids, to be respectful, to not make a scene, to not be the aggressor. Some of us in some communities are taught to be the aggressor first so that nothing bad can ever happen to you. So there's a lot of extremes when it comes to our safety. But the reality is there is a healthy balance, and that's noticing what makes you feel uncomfortable or unsafe and speaking up about it, making it clear to other people around you what is not okay and what is okay with you and what you're willing to accept. Ultimately, setting boundaries and speaking up for what we want or need not only empowers us to be able to communicate with others if they didn't get the picture, know what's happening, what's going on for us, but it's really highlighting as a measuring tool how that person's going to respond or react to our boundary. So a lot of our classes have students practice setting a boundary, whether that be with a stranger, whether that be with a person in their lives, and noticing what that feels like, not just to set the boundary and have their voice heard, but again, paying attention to how that other person responds or react. What someone does with their boundaries is going to really speak volumes about how safe they are to be around, how trustworthy they are. Ultimately, if it's even if it's an interaction with a stranger or someone in our lives, if they're hearing the boundary, if they're respectful, if they stop what it is that we're asking them to stop doing, then we can learn that maybe we can trust this person, that we can continue to go forward. If we come across reactions where they're being minimizing, maybe they're being aggressive, maybe they're kind of shifting focus or shifting blame on us, it gives us a lot of information, not that we weren't right for setting our boundary, that we didn't do it the right way, but that the other person is willing to disregard what we want or what we need. And maybe they're not focused on having a safe relationship with us or providing us with that safety that we need. And with this, we kind of preface a lot in talking about the ego. So when it comes to self-defense, whether it's using your words, whether it's using, physical skills for self-defense in a worst case situation, it can be very hard when you're empowering yourself not to let your ego run the show and let your ego get hooked. Ego can be very helpful sometimes when we're thinking of the self and being self-aware. But sometimes it can run the show and it can have us make decisions that aren't safe for us to make, or that maybe we later regret making. So when it comes to our interactions with people, again, whether this is we're setting a clear limit with a stranger that's making us uncomfortable, or maybe we're setting a limit with our coworkers or the friends around us or our families. It's very important not to let our ego get hooked, especially when responding to what may be a fight challenge. Again, going back to thinking that a fight avoided is a fight won. If we can walk away not being harmed, if we can walk away still having our safety intact, and someone is maybe calling us names as we're walking away or trying to entice us back in the fight, we've actually already won. So doing our best not to let our ego get hooked into staying in that interaction and causing further harm to ourselves and continuing that can be really helpful and important when we're making decisions about what it really means to be safe and defend ourselves. Next slide, please. So the last and what I think is one of the most important pieces in terms of what we offer at Impact and what we promote for anyone watching is to think about support. A lot of the times when we are working, whether we're working with high school students, whether we're working with survivors, whether we're specifically working with marginalized populations, asking for help can be very difficult, and we don't always think of it as a resource for self-defense. In our classes, we say asking for help is really key because we don't want you to ever be alone with an experience that feels harmful, unsafe, or uncomfortable. And asking for help can be a very useful strategy in terms of figuring out what we do want or what we do need when it comes to our safety. And I think the most important thing for recognizing our safety in this time, specifically around addressing anti-Asian violence, is being able to take that space that maybe someone is trying to take from us, right? Reclaiming safety, whether that means reaching out to a friend, an avid community member, whether it's again, a family member, coworker, but knowing that, again, you don't have to be alone with that experience. And the more support that we can give each other, as well as allow ourselves to have from others, the better that we can be in terms of taking care of ourselves and knowing what we want or need. I always say that when it comes to verbal harassment, a lot of us face verbal harassment out in the community based on our race, based on our gender, based on the way that we present. And a lot of the times students will tell us, and I've lived with the reality myself, that they felt like there's nothing they could do. They can't tell anyone because maybe they're overreacting, or maybe, they're supposed to just sort of deal with it and walk away and be the bigger person. Or maybe there weren't people around that they felt that they could be safe reporting to or asking for help with. Taking the time when you're not in a dangerous situation, when you're not in an uncomfortable situation, to think about what safety looks like for you and what kind of supports you may need, I think is key for strategizing your self-defense, because you're already doing more to protect yourself. If you are faced with something, you'll know that you have options. You know that you have support, whether that be, again, the people around you, the community, whether it be online resources. So something that I'm highlighting here are a lot of the resources that you watching may already be aware of. We offer a lot of resources in terms of dealing with racist or race-based harassment, further tools, tips, and strategies, as well as resources like on the bottom part, if you scan with your QR code, you'll see that we have some resources on our website at impactboston.org. And those resource services are also hotlines, free anonymous hotlines to reach out to if you or anyone you know need someone to talk to right now in this time, whether that be dealing with violence, whether it be dealing with race-based harassment, whether it's dealing with domestic situations or altercations. There are people that we can reach out to, and there are people that we can talk to. The importance of safety planning and strategy planning that we've been focusing a lot in our classes, specifically for helping and working with the elderly communities and elderly Asian Americans, or just elderly communities that are facing unfortunate recent attacks and targeting harassment, is knowing that it's okay to allow the people around you to be with you, if that's what makes you feel safe and comfortable, and knowing that there is safety in numbers. And reaching out to your community is something that I think can help us all further grow and connect, because we're not alone in this. This is a very collective issue. This is a very societally collective issue, and knowing that the more support we have, the stronger we will be, whether that's offering support to others, whether that's getting support for us. So that's something that we really focus here. I missed saying it, so again, you can scan the QR code here, or you can visit our website at impactboston.org for the full links of all of our support resources. So as I'm closing, I just want to highlight and say that when it comes to self-defense, when it comes to safety, first and foremost, you are never responsible for the harassment or the violence that you incur simply by being you, simply by being who you are. The other thing I will highlight is that when it comes to self-defense, it's really about choice and what choice is right for you, what safety looks like for you, and know that whatever you choose in a moment of being put between defending yourself and taking care of others, you're always right for the decisions you make when it comes to keeping yourself safe and doing what's best for you. The option we like to sort of close with our students when it comes to any choice they take for their self-defense is take what serves you and leave what doesn't, leave the rest. You'll be better for it. So I just wanted to say thank you to the presenters and everyone for having me. This has been a real treat.
Wonderful. Oh, mahalo, Adriana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I learned so much, and I need that adrenaline, that de-escalation training management is powerful. And then just the stance to be able to have a readiness and feel centered, you know, and assessing your surroundings so that you have a little more of a head start, really, on any situation you might be in. All of these points so powerful. I would like to invite any of our viewers once again to please use your chat function if you'd like to make a comment and or ask a question. And as we open that up, I'd like to invite back Dax Valdez and our CAATA folks, Leilani and Kahai, to join us in offering thoughts, questions of your own. And we're now kind of transitioning to a bit of a panel discussion. Yes, please.
Adriana, I have to say that was awesome. And because when people come to our workshops, I'm definitely pointing them in your direction because again, these are actionable items and small things that they can do to empower themselves. And also, again, the same message that you had shared, supporting others. So asking for help. Asking for help does not mean that you're weak. Asking for help means that you are doing what you need to procure your safety and feel comfortable and supported in that moment. So really these two programs dovetail so nicely. I just want more dates to be posted on your website because I want to take one.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are either of your organizations have a chapter in Hawaii?
Not a chapter, but I mean, due to one of the good things to come out of this pandemic is the pivot to virtual work. So Haul It Back does offer free public trainings. And so we have a couple more coming up this Friday, the 20th and the 24th for our bystander intervention training to come check out. And our platform holds up to 5,000 folks, which is also a lot of energy on the other end, especially in the chat. But it's great that, like, you know, folks are coming to take this and to learn.
Absolutely. I was going to say I'm not aware that we have a chapter, but very similar. We are completely virtual, so we do a lot of workshops, and we sort of will come to you now virtually and sort of cater to different communities that have different needs. We'll do public classes as well as private classes, and I'll sort of plug and highlight here that right now, in terms of facing race-based harassment for AAPI Asian Americans, we are partnering with Impact Bay Area. And I believe you can check out their website. It's impactbayarea.org. And they have another workshop coming up on May 22nd, I believe, for Asian Americans to take the facing race-based harassment training and safety for self-defense.
Yes, and thank you to you both. I know I've been talking with each of you so that we, for the larger AAPI theater making community, we could be able to offer trainings. Like you said, Dax, they just beautifully so work in tandem. So we're I know we're in conversations with you to get that planned. I want to bring up one thing that I know I had conversations with you as we were planning this conversation, to bring this all together. And Adriana, you mentioned that one of the things that seems to be that comes up, I don't know how common it is, but it does come up with elders, but also with our community members. They didn't expect a perpetrator to be nice. That
Yes.
always that's partly why their guard is down, or why they don't think they're so surprised or taken aback. Can you speak a little bit about that? And Dax, you may have some insights around it from your vantage point as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a really unfortunate reality when we're looking. I hate to say this for lack of a better word, but through the eyes of an attacker. And again, that's picking apart what potential perpetrators and attackers might be doing, so we can learn how to disrupt and disarm some of those tactics. Some of those common tactics are charm, as well as intimidation, right? I think a lot of the messages we get around what an attacker looks like, how they're responding, reacting, can sometimes be a very fairy tale Disney movie-esque version of like a villain. But unfortunately, the reality is oftentimes potential perpetrators, attackers will use charm or acting helpless or helplessness in order to take advantage. And I think that the unfortunate reality is that they specifically target elderly, knowing that maybe they might have their guard down, that they might not want to think in a self-defense mode and sort of fall victim to it. So I think in our classes, we focus a lot on like when someone may be using charm to take advantage or to manipulate, and sort of being able to recognize that or assess for yourself and how to respond to that in a way that again will maybe present threat cues or make it clear that the other person is doing that with malintention.
And then I think to tie it into our 5D methodology is delegating, asking people to help, and also with the direct, knowing and practicing, giving yourself permission to say no, stop, please leave me alone, because then again, also we're conditioned to just let things go by and not make waves. But being able to set those boundaries and adhere to them, and again, like assessing your safety all in like a split second is really crucial for navigating and getting out of that situation as quickly as and safely as possible, because a fight avoided is a fight won. Exactly. We don't want to put anybody else's safety at risk, and it's resulting in nicked lungs, stitches, death. It's too much trauma all at once, for everybody else who has to witness it and who is seeing it and is sharing the same identity as the victim. So we want to try to, again, mitigate the harm around others and ourselves when we see these things happening. And just like was shared, when you see somebody taking a stance, telling somebody to back off, maybe that is also, hopefully that is giving the other bystander permission to speak up and stand next to them as a show of solidarity. Again, safety in numbers, we're all looking out for each other. We all have to take care of each other.
Absolutely. I love that, because I think it's also, really taking a stand and showing that, we're not going to tolerate things by safety in numbers, by helping each other. And what I love about the presentation with the 5Ds is, similar to what you said about how it's just too much trauma, there is choice, there is agency, there are things we can do, and like you can do these things. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to do those actions that will lead you and maybe other people to safety. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I want to just sort of, please.
Oh no, I love that a fight avoided is a fight won. But at the same time, I'm also thinking about how hard that is to teach some people in our communities, and I mean, not to generalize, but I feel like so much, it's not just white supremacy that teaches this aggression about fighting And in different communities, it's the idea of like, that is such a hard thing to teach, to what a lot of our, some things in our culture promote, like fight, don't let them take advantage of you, you know, and a fight avoided is a fight won is something that I feel some folks is really hard to teach. And I this is a mix of questions, like how do we work with being culturally specific? And also I'm thinking a lot about, I have a 10-year-old in the LAUSD system. How do I teach that to children? And what are some of the adjustments that we are able to make based on community, culture, and or age?
Absolutely. It's a long answer to a very complicated question, but I do think on the surface, it is a life skill that we all continue to work at, even at Impact, even, you know, in other self-defense organizations. I think that the reality of having that fight response is a result of it was successful. It kept you safe, right? Or it made you feel safe in some way. And I think whether it's, you know, growing up and learning these things as adolescents and growing into that, having the pattern completions of either fighting to get out of it or using your voice and yelling and kind of having someone back down from you can kind of feel empowering. And to us now, maybe we see that as like toxic, but knowing that the messages we're getting and in terms of defending ourselves when those things are successful is really what's going to create that pattern for us. But I think the important thing is taking time to notice when you were successful, just walking away. I am somebody who grew up on both sides of my family, being told to be tough all the time, you know, getting like roughhoused by like family members and cousins, like teaching me to be tough, teaching me to stand up for myself. As a biracial person, as a mixed race person who dealt with a lot of invisibility in the Asian community, I think there's a sense of, I don't want to call it compensating, but needing to prove yourself because of all the things that are systemic and the pressure that we get and wanting to sort of be without that. But it took time for me as an instructor, but noticing like, hey, I crossed the street because that situation over there looked really dangerous, and realizing, okay, if I think about the what ifs, if I chose to, you know, get aggressive, if I chose to just force myself past this person who makes me feel uncomfortable, what could have been the negative outcomes? What could I have potentially been avoiding? I think that those things can be helpful to sort of keep in mind. So a lot of the times when I have worked with, you know, the Boston Chinatown elderly community, a lot of the times they're like, why would I bother crossing the street? You know, if I see the same person every day. But then when we think about what are the negative things that could have happened, those are the things that you're avoiding. You're avoiding the possibility or the risk of harm, and you're so much better off being able to go about your life knowing that you just avoid anything that could have happened versus, you know, what didn't happen.
I like that. That's
Yeah, you know, that's
no, please.
Oh, mahalo. I was just gonna say it's so interesting. You know, you brought up the idea that one of the benefits of the pandemic was the physical distancing that have been experiencing, and
oh, I don't know if I come back.
Yes. He's coming. There he is.
That was pretty predictable, let's face it. The one thing that really kind of stuck in my mind, and maybe this is a cultural thing really specific to Hawaii, but that idea that sometimes when I'm walking down the street and I'm just allowing space with distancing in mind, I get the sense that the other person's reaction is that you know, I'm coming off as disrespectful or, you know, potentially xenophobic just by having that simple step to the side kind of action. So I wonder, you know, is that something that you've heard from the folks that you've worked with?
That's a really good point. I have to be honest and say that I haven't heard it, but I've seen it a lot. I've seen it a lot just walking throughout Boston. And the unfortunate thing is I've seen it more now that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, miscommunication, and like lack of solidarity intersectionally amongst different communities. I've seen a lot of extra agitation when someone chooses to move away or give space. There's a lot of again, it's that ego getting hooked, right? It's a lot of like, oh, are you just doing this because I'm this? Or you just, and we're all kind of battling the demons inside ourselves where it's like, oh, wait, we forgot it's a pandemic, it's COVID. We forgot, maybe we just want to give this person space or distance. I feel and I see that tension when I walk through Boston, unfortunately. As loving as a community as it can be, I sense a lot of that tension. So I can't say that students have said it, but I can see it happening. And again, I think it's also just the unfortunate reality of being pitted against each other as marginalized communities. And there's a lot of like making assumptions, you know, and assuming these things are happening when it would be really nice if we were like, oh, right, I might have misunderstood this, or we're still here for each other versus being divided.
Yeah, it's a lot of learning to do our implicit biases, you know, especially now. If I saw you coming down the street in a mask and scrubs, I might definitely like hightail it across the street because there's that, maybe it's the assumption that you have been exposed to COVID, and if I pass by you, I'll get sick. Or the assumption that all Black and brown people are dangerous. So therefore, I have to clutch everything around me tighter.
Mm.
Being able to identify what those reactions are, that self-assessment, and what Adriana had shared earlier about like just naming your emotions without judgment, just check in with how you feel, sit with that and just be like, why did I do that? Why did I have this reaction? Investigate that, and then go on forth with your day, because it is going to be a constant process to undo all of these thought processes. So with some grace and space, you know, that's your own journey to take, but that's also something to think about as we're navigating, especially in this post-COVID world, as the vaccines roll out, as the mask mandates roll back. We are going to have to be primed with these strategies of bystander intervention and self-defense. Like, hey, I do not like the way you're talking to me, back off. And being confident and being able to stand firm in what we need at that moment. And still investigating all of this other stuff that we've been taught over years and years and years, and what we receive in the media. We all know, yeah.
Right. You know, this is powerful. It's inspired me to start to begin to talk with my staff at the theater about how do we support. I'm thinking, can I bring you both to provide training for our community? Because maybe the volunteers at the theater who are ushers, you know, our box office person, people who interface with our community, as well as our artists when they work amongst and with and collaborate with each other. This is so game changing. And I've been at Leilani and Kaha'i know that I work a lot in community to build coalition, to build this word's been used a lot, ally, so we don't often quite use it the same as we used to. But this feels like some of the earliest first steps in actually building ally training. How do you show up for each other?
Mm.
How do you have that respect and space, share your boundaries, de-escalate? You know, because we get into some deep collaboration and don't always come into it with skills like this. And then once again, we eventually will welcome our communities back to our spaces, but sometimes you don't know who you're sitting next to and a little something occurs. Can we train our ushers to help support those situations respectfully? And maybe a little more intervention when needed, right? So I don't know, you just bring my imagination. This is game changing for the theater field and any field that deals certainly where we work closely in community. I don't know who doesn't need these trainings actually. Yeah.
And that's part of just educating our communities, giving them tools and the knowledge of what they can do for good. You know, I think is also is a great way to start. And the more people that are doing this and modeling it, what are those success stories? You know, fight avoided, fight won. How can I show up for others and take care of myself and be safe? That is all going to filter out. Hopefully, again, I'm like, you know, we learn it, we model it, other people that herd immunity, that's what we're striving for.
Mm.
Yeah, I love. Oh, right. I'm actually writing a note. I want to have you two back later in our series because this will go on for into the next year, and maybe we need to highlight the success stories. Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
great to know that we're
Absolutely.
working toward having those success stories? Yeah. One of the last questions I have, and Leilani and Kahati, please chime in, because we've had conversations about this in other meetings with CAATA. And I take this off of a quote from Aaron Date Roy that, silence is not by accident. There are patterns in society that would silence us, and that we are preferably unheard. So as we come into our voices to set boundaries or to say help, just stop, give the cue that this something's going down here, help me, or as a bystander to be able to, support somehow, maybe use your voice. I I just think about how this is going to be an interesting opportunity as artists too, to empower ourselves and our audiences around ending our silence. I'm
Yeah,
just
and
curious about any of your thoughts on that.
so thinking about our young artist makers who are, pivoting and adjusting to this COVID world, and then the post-COVID methods of sharing and creating art, and what they have learned and seen before, that the giving that yourself permission to speak up and be heard and channel your energies, channel your anger into making art, there is going to be, and there already is, some beautiful, strange, wonderful hybrid work that is coming out. And just to see the evolution of that, and especially as it is mounted for, like an actual viewing, or, what is the theater companies that will support this kind of work, and then also just how are we going to look back on this in 5, 10, 20 years time, and what are those markers that come through,
Mhm.
like thinking about the piece that was at the Armory a couple weeks ago that David Byrne did. It was solo dancing. So you have all of these people in this drill hall. They're all in their own spotlight. We can have community, but we're 6 feet apart. How are we all doing this together, or experiencing theater with, just audio and lights, and or even, things like this medium? What's the hybrid of being 6,000 miles and 6 feet apart, So as these artists are generating their ideas and iterating on them, it's going to be some wonderful, weird stuff. Weird in a good way.
I'm also thinking about how we are representing fights and martial arts on stage, which this might be a tangent, but I'm also trying to bring it back to our field. And this conversation has allowed me, encouraged me to think about how do we represent ourselves on stages. I have this great admiration for Asian martial arts. Even though I've taken a few classes, I've never studied it deeply. But we love to, I'm just sort of, this conversation has had me thinking about how we are represented through martial arts on stages sometimes, both for good and bad. And what is the good? What is the bad? I just asked myself, I'm wondering if there's any thoughts you have on that, about how we change representation and martial arts, I guess. This is not a very clear conversation, but it's got me thinking. So probably a whole another episode as well.
Yeah. That's also, I think also, I mean, for me, just thinking about that, how do you, it's the videography and the cinematography, and then also who's comfortable being in proximity with each other to demonstrate moves, or is it like a GoPro first person first person perspective just to go through all of those moves, translating it into like a body cam stitch. And then with technology, whether it's like DaVinci or like Isadora, how can you, or even those Snapchat filters where you have like a triplicate, or like the neon outline of you that does it in reverse. How can you leverage that as art and do those dances, TikTok, like a TikTok martial arts dance, you know, as we're coming into like a minute 30, 3-minute segments just for bite-sized consumption. Yeah, that's also, or a series of like how to build, like these are these steps in order to take care of yourself. We're going to do it in like 30 seconds. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit that button, you know, like to get buy-in and speak to the users, the end users for this.
Yeah, or I mean, I guess for me, it's the finding the balance between, I don't want to glorify violence. You know, I really look at a lot of it as, for me, I look at it as dance, but I know that's not what necessarily the audience looks at it. You know, these are some thoughts that are coming up for me as how we use this in our work and on our stages when we move forward. You know, because I think about the field and how much negative portrayals of Asian Americans, whether it be on the stages or on film, that have created these stereotypes that support anti-Asian hate and harassment. And so wanting us to, in our field, to be aware of that, and how do we honor these traditional martial arts practices without glorifying violence or supporting stereotypes. And that be just a challenge for our field.
Adriana, definitely. Adriana, you have experience with self-defense, yes? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yes, I think it's really important to acknowledge all experiences with that, right? Similar to what you were saying, not wanting to glorify violence, but wanting to be very realistic at how different people look at violence, and how they sort of come at self-defense. I guess that's an offensive kind of way to say it, but how they approach self-defense and how they look at it. Because I think there are empowering aspects of martial arts in the way that people will practice them in sort of responding to violence, especially around race-based harassment. So I think it's important to just sort of acknowledge all those experiences, and how do we work to encompassing everyone's experiences in ways that don't dampen on each other's or minimize each other. So again, it doesn't turn into this competition, right? And that thing where we're all kind of pitted against each other. How can we work as a community, but collectively in acknowledgement of all those different experiences, both lived and professionally, I guess.
Yeah. I think one of the really interesting dynamics, I believe in the San Francisco attack of the two women, they chose to defend themselves. And I think in the response, the social media response, especially that I saw, there was a lot of, yeah, you go get them. And, you know, that's it. It was the response from people outside of the situation that made me feel a little uncomfortable, as if, you know, as it seemed to escalate and take the situation that they weren't even involved in.
Well, I think about so last month there was another attack where the our Asian elder was attacked, but she attacked back with the stick and essentially sent her assailant to the hospital. And when I saw that, you know, feeling world weary already, I just had a moment of like, F yeah, good for her. Which, you know, resetting myself as like, is that what I want to share out? But like, it's a mix of, yes, you know, like she took a stand, she was successful in what she set out to do. Again, but like taken care of what she needed to do. But it is a fine line of with that. But then also with the attack last week in downtown San Francisco, the intervention method document from the security cameras as well as the other bystanders who were around helped identify their assailant, and then thinking about using that in a moment of violence, document in the case of George Floyd, Darnella Frazier, had she not been brave enough to stand there the entire time and then share that out with the world, we would not have had the verdict we had, and some progress forward with that. So it's always going to be a negotiation and a judgment call.
Mm-hmm. To your point too of some of the questions you raised, Leilani, when I did see some of that footage where that elder fought back, and then you saw the news footage where the assailant was going off on a stretcher, my concern was they would stereotype that elder and have sympathy for the person on the stretcher. I hate to bring this up even. I don't want it to seem like trauma, like we're trying to, exploit something here. But I did have that concern about those tropes and stereotypes that continue to,
But for our young playwrights out there, or the young artists, that's something to take that story and expound upon it. So something to investigate. What is that? And what comes out of that? That's interesting though. So like thinking about all those possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is beautiful conversation, you all. I think we have determined we might have to have you back to follow up on how we're all doing with this trainings. Once again, I know that I want to share with our viewers that, especially those who are AAPIs in the theater making world here, we are talking with Dax, follow back, and with Impact. We want to be able to offer trainings for our community to feel empowered in what we do going forward and how we can impact our communities. That ripple effect that we always hope for, and that you all had in training so many folks. And then I would love to make sure you come back because we want to be able to share some success stories. Hopefully that we haven't had to use the training is one, and or how were we able to avoid and or empower ourselves, right? So with that, Leilani, Kahati, I know you've had connected, but thank you, Adriana. You've had some connected things and wanting to be respectful for sounds. I appreciate you using your on and off camera functions for that. But Leilani and Kahati, anything else you would like to say? And then I'll give our guests that last say before I bring us to a close.
I think I would just want to say mahalo for what you presented today. I look forward to seeing you both again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adriana, anything you'd like to share in closing?
Adriana, I will let you go first.
Thank you. Something that you had said, Leslie, really resonated me. We actually say that at the end of our classes. We hope you never have to use these skills. Definitely not the physical skills when we teach them, but use the verbal skills every day. Set boundaries, set limits, say what you want or need. Those are going to be the defining moments of creating safety and empowerment for you at the end of the day, no matter where you go. So thank you.
I will share. It is not your responsibility to have a perfect response. And to reiterate Adriana's point, it is their responsibility to not harass you. So everything that we do, whether we escalate a situation or step up and show up in order to de-escalate a situation, is always a choice. So thinking about the choices we make going forward and how can we do better? How can we do better? We just need to, and that's, again, a lifelong journey.
Uh, Mahalo, Dax. Hello, Adriana. And mahalo, Leilani and Ha'i for being with us on this episode of Healing Over Hate today. What powerful wisdom and teachings you shared with us truly so we can heal ourselves as we know, unfortunately, there's still hate happening and even historical trauma that we work with, right, and continue to deal around. So mahalo for being with us. I personally have learned so much. And again, I look forward to being in contact with you. There's more work to be done with both of you and your organizations. We look forward to that continued organizing and collaboration. So with that, I will begin to bring us to a close. Again, we've learned so much today. It was just really scratching the surface, if you were right at the tip of the iceberg. I'm here in Alaska, I have to say tip of the iceberg. Um, but we want to offer more opportunities. And with that, it's an important time in many of our cultures, gratitude, giving thanks is really very much a real principle. So I'd like to thank our funders who we couldn't do it without you. Um, the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Ford Foundation, the HowlRound Theater Commons. And here we are, we're streaming on the HowlRound Theater TV platform. Thank you so much, HowlRound. Thank you to the New England Foundation for the Arts and also for Theater Communications offering support. And they were very much an initial supporter when we created this series, Healing Over Hate, and certainly in support of bringing us together with the larger AAPI theater community. And as we look to, here we are, we're making plans still, y'all. We look to our CAATA Confest in Hawaii in 2022, return to the source, Ku'u Piko, Ku'u Aina, and Ku'u Hua. We want to be sure to let you know and say it's still in partnership. And thank you to T-Shirt Theater, the University of Hawaii Manoa, one of our wonderful partners and hosts, the Queen Liliuokalani Trust, couldn't do without you, and of course Tita Productions, who Leilani is the artistic director of Tita Productions, and they've been a key supporter in organizing and bringing about our Confest. And with that, of course, as we stated, it's so important to ask for help. Please, there is no shame in getting help and support. We want to lift up once again our iHoloback. Please go to their website, holoback.org and impact.org, impactboston.org as well, to learn where you can get training. And they have wonderful resources on their websites. Of course, also help each other by encouraging each other and to get vaccinated, to get back to being in community in person. And let that be a part of our planning towards our Kata Confest in Hawaii so we can safely be in person, right? Also, we want to encourage you to keep wearing your mask. And of course, when in doubt, wear masks indoors and especially in larger gatherings. Also, please do go to kata.net. Stay tuned because we do in our next episode, we are hosting 2G's virtual short play festival. And once again, like we were saying in this episode, Dax, you mentioned channeling our energies, channeling our anger and our learnings from being in this pandemic, being in these moments where we have to think about anti-Asian violence, uh, hate, anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, and anti-Latinx support for all these BIPOC communities. Um, this wonderful uh, this wonderful festival is channeling those energies. And right at this moment, they are creating these short plays that will help us to stay connected, celebrate our communities, because we are stronger together and we are stronger than ever, especially when we help each other and lift each other up. So once again, visit kata.net for upcoming details and announcements. Also sign our statements condemning anti-Asian hate and violence, and of course, donate and become a member. So with that, of course, take care, be safe. Aloha, mahalo anui for joining us today, and we'll be having another episode in June. Take good care, please. Be safe. Get vaccinated.
All right. We got the right to bear arms, but shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket,
If they wanna shoot at us, got a right to shoot 'em up. They shoot us in the back, bet they say it's from the front. You warned, even if you aren't armed, they will find an excuse to do you harm if they think you out of line. In every city's urban jurisdiction, you will find some people making livings out of creeping from behind. And even if behaving most of the time, man, they know if an officer to blame, they need to let it go. With a family at home, a mortgage to support. In times when it's hella hard as fuck to find a job. If you wanna keep yours, you better not inform. Don't wanna be the wrong side of the law. But guess what? The people got a weapon of their own. The lens and a shutter built into a mobile phone. Evidence admissible in court, even more documented cases of what been going on. Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket,
I hear them saying that the shit don't ever happen in Seattle. And if it does, it's really just a couple bad apples. But if you keep in count, you will see the shit is not the apple, it's the tree. It's rotten underneath. Oh, say, can you see? No way that it's true. They don't wanna see another South Central 92 or Seattle 99. Even if it happens, what they saying on the news. Bad people mad, justifying the abuse. And youth, especially the ones with darker features, being targeted to boo. And true, some people can handle the truth. Now keep that feeling in mind when you pull that camera out and ask a pig to smile at you. I ain't talking one, I'm talking 3 or 4 or 5. What you so afraid of if you ain't committing crime? We are merely doing what a citizen should do. Better act right. If I were you, the world is watching you. We gotta shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
take your cameras out your pocket, people.
Shoot the cops, shoot the cops, shoot the cops.
Take your cameras out your pocket, people.
them kids cop the shirts and start wearing them. Humbled in the presence of the veterans and not the ones who picked up their guns, but who picked up their brethren and sisterin. History in the making, I was witnessing, listening. Seen this old Japanese lady with the sticker on her walker said, "Free Mumia," and this was before the Trustafarians were saying it. Taking it for granted that we talk about the 60s and never get to talk to anybody who done lived the shit and still exists. Or better yet, she still resists speaking to a myriad of young, dumb, and ignorant kids. I was one of them, stuck around lingering. Said that it's a privilege to meet you in person, and she took my hand, said it's good to meet you too. And when I'm out of school, asked me what I'm gonna do. I had to think about it, but truth is I knew that it was something for the youth and shit. Truly, I'd probably be a teacher if the music didn't make enough to make me wanna gamble on its sustenance. And that's why I'm writing this to tell y'all, from a scholar, when I grow up I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. Holla, swear to my Kasamas, when I grow up I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. And if she ever hear this, it's an honor, cause when I grow up I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama. Serve the people proper, and when I grow up I wanna be just like Yuri Kochiyama.